All right. Shabbat Shalom. Whew. I hope you guys are excited as I am for Passover that's coming up. So, as you may have already deduced from the title, we are kind of switching it up this week. We are not in 2nd Samuel. We are going to go through Exodus chapter 12. And we're going to read through it just like we did with our 1st and 2nd Samuel series. And we're going to do it in a way to pick up our cultural nuggets. There are so many questions surrounding Passover. What do I do? What does it mean? What's happening? And Yah is so merciful to us as a people because he gave us a play-by-play account of Passover. Literally, if you go back to chapter 1, we get background story. We understand what happens. We understand who the people are, who they are, in the midst of the Egyptians and how Yah creates a separation. And when we arrive at chapter 12, we are going to get into the meat, if you will, of what it is we are supposed to be doing during this Passover time. So I hope this answers some questions, and not because I'm here to give out the answers, but we're going to read it. I have notes. So if you see me looking around, my brain was just flooding as I was going over this this morning. So thank you guys for tuning in. I know it is late on the East Coast, but hopefully you see this tomorrow during your Shabbat and hopefully before your Passover if this was something that you were on the lookout for. With no more preliminaries, we're going to get right in it. You know how we do here. We're going to share the screen. We're going to read along with one another so that we can be on one accord as we go through this text. All right. As I always pull this point out. Make sure that you are reading your word. Make sure you're saying your word. The word answers questions and gives insight better than any human could ever possibly give. So I want you guys to be mindful of that. So we're going to be in Exodus chapter 12. All right. Okay, let's get right into it. So we're in Exodus chapter 12. If you have not read this, the Israelites are in Egypt. Our ancestors are in Egypt. They're in the land of their captivity as it had been prophesied. They came in 70 souls and they begin flourishing, and they get a Pharaoh that rises up and he's like, who are these people, quote unquote, that I don't know? We saved the whole land, so it wasn't a secret. And they seek to eradicate, and they begin to do so. And by the reason of the burden, our ancestors cried out to Yahuwah, and he heard their voice. I think the Passover story, for those of us who are scattered and disenfranchised, is one of those stories that really, really hits home. And I want you guys to see yourselves, if you are of the transatlantic slave trade, if you have been scattered, dispersed, if you're of the diaspora, if you are a sojourner amongst Israel, watching the plight of people of color all over the world and seeing what is happening, put on that mind, put them in this lens. Even if you don't agree that the Hebrews are the blacks in America and in the islands and who have been scattered to the four corners of the world, if you don't, for today, you can play pretend and put that cap on and watch this text come to life. And maybe by the end, the Most High will soften your heart to see that what you are reading is not some past narrative, but it is literally life and the life of Yah's people currently. And there is also a redemption very similar to this, greater than this, coming for his people. So I want to just bring that all in, get us right here, and get us into this text. All right, let's start off at the beginning. And Yahuwah spake unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt. Pause. Yah spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of their captivity. I think it's very, very important to note that Yah's voice is not limited to space. And when we hear Yah, no matter where we are, we have to hear him and we have to respond. I'm going to give you guys today a little bit of Hebrew grammar, not to overwhelm you. You can go back and fact check. You can go back and look it up, but I'm going to kind of throw some things out there because there are some terms here that are used in the Hebrew that you can't see in English, and they tell us certain things. And one of the things that Yah has been pressing on my heart and those with Royal Roots and with the Ark and everywhere is this idea that we have to be unified. We have to be one, and we cannot be unified if we cannot look at our language and come to a concrete understanding of what's being said. And there are a lot of arguments going around, and I'm not coming for anyone. That's not my spirit. All I'm going to do is tell you what's here, give you, if you've never heard some of these things, an alternative narrative so you can take this information back and make an educated decision for yourself. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to sell you on anything. I just want you to see that our text really explains some things. All right. And Yahuwah spake unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year unto you. In the text, this in Hebrew is called a demonstrative. You can't see it in English. It is in English as well. But in Hebrew, he says hazeh, hazeh. And in Hebrew, that is like pointing at something, not just saying this, and this has nothing to go with it. He goes, this chachodesh shall be. He's this that I can point at. This can't be something that I can't see. This can't be something I can't count. This can't be something that I can't visualize. A demonstrative demonstrates something. He's pointing to a tangible example of something. And he's saying, this that you're seeing right now shall be the first of months to you. If we kind of take a little journey backwards, if you're familiar with this story, something happened very, 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 very important before this moment. Yah had taken the sun and made darkness in day and in night. Some people argue that this darkness was because of a 3-day eclipse. I'm presenting to you that it wasn't an eclipse, because an eclipse would then mean that there was a full moon that was passing in front of or in the path of the sun, creating darkness for the day. But then you would have a moon, right? You would have something visible for the night. My hypothesis is that it was a conjunction at night and he darkened the sun by day. So after 3 days of complete darkness, the text said it was so dark that you could literally feel the darkness. After 3 days of darkness, Yah then does something. He points up and he says, Hazeh HaChodesh. This right here that you're seeing, this is the first of months to you. We've talked about this before. Moons are counted by months. We are going to get into this calendar thing. Z has touched down in California, along with Drika and her husband, and we are going to have this conversation. We are going to talk about how the definition of Chodesh, that people say does not mean moon, literally comes from the root word, which means to be empty and then to fill up to full and then to go all the way back down to empty. That is the Hebrew definition of the word. So when Yah said, Hazeh HaChodesh, that he was pointing to the sliver of the moon, the visible portion of the moon that they could see. And he said, this shall be the first of months to you. Okay. Had to put that out there because we're going to get into some stuff later. And I know that's a question that comes up. It does matter. Moons count months. Sun counts days. We'll get into that later. It's not a calendar speech, but that's what he's saying. He said, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. Okay. And he says, it shall be the first month of the year to you. He's pointing to something visible. There was a visible demonstration. They had something and things that were happening all around them that signaled what he said. They were taking it in. Our people operate with observational evidence: sight, touch, taste, seeing, hearing, feeling, everything happening at one time around them. When he said this, when Yah spoke, they literally zoned in. They didn't do like us and put our heads down and then look at our phones or try to look up when these things are happening. They looked out and around them and could feel, and they took that in and they literally took it to heart. All right, verse 3. Speak ye unto all the congregation, saying, in the 10th day of this month. I told you, moons count months, suns count days. That's why there's never a break in the counting of days, right? So he's in the 10th day of this month. So you saw this new moon. Count 10 days now that you've seen this sliver, and this is what you're going to do. In the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Not wasteful, right? Taking this lamb, it's set apart at the 10th day. Very, very straightforward are Yah's instructions. Every man according to his eating, it literally says according to his mouth, shall make your count for the lamb. So whoever has a mouth that can eat, right? That's how you're going to count. All right. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. So I know people are like, okay, for the memorial Passover, we'll get into why we don't sacrifice in the sense for our sins, but why there's still the memorial portion of doing the work of the Passover. So people are like, do I get lamb or goat? In the text, it says from the sheep or from the goats. And ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same Chodesh, okay, of the same month. So you've been counting these days. 14th day, you set that lamb apart, and you're going to keep it until the 14th day. We did some little clips earlier today with the children. So if you don't know what a young goat looks like, if you don't know what a goat of the first year looks like, we tried to make that tangible. We try to make it something that you could see, something you could visualize. And also you got to see the intimacy between our family and our animals. When you are shepherding or when you have animals, this is not some, distant experience. This is something that is very hands-on. You're taking something that you know intimately. To know that something is without blemish, to know its gender means you inspected it. Without blemish means you've inspected it, you've been close to it, you've put your hands on it, you've touched it, you've created a bond. And then I don't know if you've ever tried to catch a goat or a lamb, but they're not an animal that willingly comes to you if you don't have a relationship with them. But if you do, catching them or bringing them in and keeping them in your space is kind of interesting. They are definitely animals that cleave to their caregivers. They recognize you. And so you can imagine what this process would have been like. Okay. And it said right after the colon, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. Everybody's killing it at the same time. Everybody's doing this at the same time. And they shall take the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper doorpost of the house wherein they shall eat it. That is verse 7. They shall take the blood. And it literally says, and this is interesting. The word here is benatnu, and it means that you should literally gift it, or to literally, this is a word for gift. You shall gift it to the doorpost. It's a whole nother thing. I'm going to leave that for you guys to kind of sit on for a while, but you shall gift it. You shall place it on the doorpost. This is the patach, this entrance, the opening. And he says, and you shall strike it on the two side posts. All right. And on the upper post of the house wherein they shall eat it. So it's to be eaten in the house where the blood has been placed. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread. So the meal has the flesh of the lamb or the ram roasted with fire. Y'all know how to barbecue. You know how to roast, okay? Roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Okay, this is not dipping herbs in salt and eating them. These are bitter herbs that are eaten in a salad form. You can season with bitter herbs. Look up what bitter herbs are. It needs to be incorporated in your meal. The bitter herbs need to be eaten. Eat not of it raw. Cannot make your meat rare for Passover. So no, it needs to be roasted in fire, needs to be cooked, okay? Nor sodden at all with water. So you cannot boil it in water. He says, but roast with fire. When Yah repeats himself, he's repeating himself for emphasis and for clarity. And he says, his head with his legs and with the pertinence thereof. Now, we kind of briefly touched on this a little bit earlier that we get to this, the idea of a memorial when we have a Messiah who is our Passover, and we'll get to those verses. What we're doing now is a memorial. We are doing this to walk our children through it. So you may not have a whole lamb with its head and everything there because you did not create a Passover sacrifice. So I just don't want you to be like, oh no, I don't have a whole lamb here. No, we have a Passover lamb. So for the memorial, most of you all will have probably a lamb shank, some lamb cutlets, or the parts of a lamb that you have that you're still going to roast with fire. I hope you sustainably sourced this animal to the best of your ability, so that you know how your animal was handled. But that's something that happens over time, and of course with practice. Okay. But I want you to know, not boiled and not raw, roasted in fire. All right. And verse 10, and ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning. Okay. So we're not going to get in this argument about when's the morning. The morning is ruled by the sun. Okay. So nothing should be left when the day portion of the day arrives. So you're going to take whatever's left after you guys have eaten and everything, right? And you're going to then burn it. You're going to burn it in fire, whatever's left of this lamb. Okay. Just to make sure we're on the same page. And this is the same exact thing that Yah says. And that which remaineth of it until the morning, ye shall burn with fire. And thus ye shall eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. Ye shall eat it in haste. This is a part of the Passover instruction. This is not some lean back, kick back meal in this first portion as we are acting out the memorial of the Passover. And the reason why this is very important is because this Passover for the so-called Negro is very important because you're practicing for your second redemption. Your ancestors experienced the first redemption, but we have a redemption very much like this one on its way. So when we practice, we're not only practicing what happened before, but we're also practicing for what is to happen. We read about that actually last week and the week before that, I think. The last two lessons, we read about the redemption and the regathering of the people and how they will no longer even talk about this Passover, but it'll be how Yah has redeemed his people from all the four corners of the earth. So keep this in mind as you're going through and you're doing the ordinances of this feast. Okay. So you're going to eat it with your loins girded. That means you're up, you're dressed, your shoes are on your feet, your staff is in your hand, and you eat the first portion in haste. It's not this long, drawn out ceremony. No, it's to remember that they were eating this meal, putting some on your stomach. Y'all getting free today. All right. It is Yahuwah's Passover. Yahuwah's Passover. This is my first note, and we're going to kind of just hover here for a second because I want you guys to really understand. It is, and here it says the Lord's, it is Yahuwah's Passover. If you go down here, if we scroll to verse 11, and it says, Pasak hu la Yahuwah, or Yahweh. All right. It's his Passover. It's not our Passover. This is a very, 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 very important point. Passover is translated in the text as Pesach, Pesach. So that's the Hebrew word for Passover, and you can see it right here. If you have, this is Logos Bible software, it literally translates it as Passover, and it says passing over into a new year, the sacrifice of a Passover, and it gives all these definitions. But the real definition of Passover, Pesach, literally means to skip over or to limp or to hesitate at a particular place. So Pesach, Pe Samech Het, literally means to limp or to skip over, to literally to be hesitant about doing something, but also to move in doing something else. It literally means to like weaken my hand, if you will, toward you, Israel, right? To stay my hand from you, but to literally strike. And we're going to see that word over and over and over again in it's funny, over and over and over again in the text. He's going to strike the Egyptians. He's going to strike them, right? But for Israel, he's not going to chastise them, but his judgment is going to hesitate. It's very important because this hesitation, right, is not a hesitation because Israel doesn't have their own testing and trying that is yet to come. Yah is literally saying, do this so that as my judgment goes out, I don't have to destroy you with them. Put this blood on. It's my Passover. It's me passing over. I'm the one that's doing it. Do this. And he says, and hurry up. Hurry up, because this is the hesitation or the window that Yahuwah is going to allow for you to get free. Yah has made your enemies weak by reason of the plagues and his punishment and his judgment against their gods. The last judgment is Yah's judgment. Yah is going to pause his judgment on Israel, on us, and is going to take you out of here. There's going to be a window. It's a window of time. It's a window of opportunity, right? I'm going to say, all right, now you go. And then the full force, right? So he's saying, I'm coming through to execute my judgment. I'm going to he's going to kill all the firstborn and who don't have this blood over their door, right? It's going to happen. And he said, but for you, put this blood on after I do my thing, right? And he did that thing. After I do my thing, right? Then I'm going to just pause my judgment, and you guys are going to walk out. You're going to walk out. I'm going to allow space for you to walk out and to get into the land that I've promised. All right. And he says, I'm going to bring you. I'm not going to just take you and just like, oh, now you're free. Go do whatever you want and just go. No, you have an appointed time. You have an appointed place to be. And I'm going to take you into the wilderness, and I'm going to prove you. The same thing we have read over and over and over again when it comes to us as a people as well. There is a proving process that we are going through and have to go through when he does his work. It is Yahuwah's Passover. He says, for I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the elves of Egypt I will execute judgment. Now, this is not the prince of Egypt, right? It's not the prince of Egypt. It's not some mythical thing happening here. Yah says, I'm going to do it. Nobody else is going to do this. I'm going to do it. It's my work. It's my job. I'm the Redeemer. I'm going to come through. Not only am I going to pass over, but I'm also going to execute judgment. And then at the end, just in case you didn't catch it on the first time through, he says, I am Yahuwah. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. And the blood shall be a token. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. He said, when I see the blood upon your house, al-Habaitim, he says, I am not going to smite you. When I see it, I'm going to pass over. I'm going to do it. All of you. And he says, and I will not strike you when I see this. All right. Okay. So the blood here, there's a word here that's used that you don't see in, they translate it as token. It's going to be like a token. And token is a really bad translation in English, because it's like, oh, it's like a trinket. It's like a thing. And I'm going to see it. It's more than a token. It says the blood shall be a ot, leot. It's literally a sign, a warning, a distinguishing mark, and pretty much a miracle. Because remember, these Egyptians who have hardened their heart don't believe it. So they could have very well taken blood and been like, I'm just going just in case, like do what they did, and could have been fine. Some did. That's why they come out a mixed multitude. We'll get to that in a second. But those who didn't believe didn't do it. And so they'll be like, wait, so you put blood on your door and you live, but I didn't and I died. And it seems foolish, the same way that it seems foolish for those of us who have accepted the sacrifice of Yehoshua. And people are like, oh, I'm not doing that. I got this myself. My blood is good. I don't need an atonement. I can handle this myself. And it seems foolish until Yah passes through and his judgment comes. You're like, wait, so you did that I thought was dumb. Like, I'm looking at you and you following after something and you're making fun of people because they're like, oh, you believe in that New Testament, and you're saying these things, and the very thing that we have taken to and are cleaving to is going to be the determining factor between life and death for those who have heard the warning go out. Nobody was without excuse here. This wasn't some unfair thing. They saw 9 plagues. They saw things that not even their Egyptian magicians could do. And this was going to be no different. They had ample warning. So I know people like to say, oh, well, Yah is unjust and he killed all those people and they just did. No. Patient is Yah. And full of warnings is he. And the word went out and they chose not to heed. So he says, the blood shall be to you for an ot, for a sign upon the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. And he says, and this day, here's another demonstrative, right? This day shall be unto you for a memorial. So he's talking about that one, right? And ye shall keep it a feast to Yahuwah throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. Now, it's interesting that all of this that is being said about the feast and all of this that is being said about Passover is before they've even done the work of Passover, right? So the memorial, what's to be done later, Yah is telling them that this is what's going to happen. So this is not something that like, oh, we're going to get all the examples about what the feast is supposed to look like from just looking at the feast, but Yah literally gives them detail where we can literally hear Yah speak in detail about this feast, what he expects to happen at this feast, what it's going to look like. And then we are to mimic that. We are to literally replicate that. And then he does it another thing on top of that, which is we get to see our ancestors literally walk it out, like literally they're going to walk out of Egypt. And so it's definitely beautiful. All right. So he says, you shall keep it as an ordinance forever. 7 days. So he's still giving the instruction to them. They're like, oh, he's like, you're not going to die. I know this is going to be nerve wracking. I'm coming with the judgment. You've seen everything that's happened. I'm telling you that on the other side of all this that's going to happen, of all this destruction you're going to see, there's going to be you after this. I'm not going to forget you. I'm going to pass over you. I'm not going to destroy you. And I'm so sure of me and what I'm able to do. And I want you to be so sure of me that you're going to keep this feast and you're going to remember what I did here by an ordinance forever. Verse 15, 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. So he's like going into detail about the unleavened bread. They're like, unleavened bread? I'm sure they knew what unleavened bread was. I'm not saying they didn't, but it was like, okay, we listening. Now he's giving detail, like, I'm not playing about this feast. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. Now this verse, I did a write-up and I put it on Patreon. I think it's public, so you can go on there and download it. If it's not, it will be when you go to download it. I'll make sure it is. And I took these words out of here because in the English, when you read something in English, it's going to give you the same English words over and over and over again with the variation: leaven, leavened, unleavened, right? Those all sound the same in English, but those are all different Hebrew words. And a lot of the contention about what these things are is based upon us just taking some time out and defining these and keeping our definitions within the context of the text. Okay. That's over there. So I'm not going to spend time on that because it's like a 6-page, really concise write-up. And you can take your time and look through the text and look through the write-up and do some comparison and see what you come away with. But he says 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, even the first day, right? You shall put leaven out of your house. So you have chametz seor matzot. Okay. 2 things you shall not have. 1 thing you must eat. During the Feast of Unleavened Bread, you must eat unleavened bread. Okay. That's something in the past that we didn't do so well. I'm not saying we didn't eat unleavened bread, but the actual practice of making this unleavened bread and eating the unleavened bread is a part of the memorial, especially if you have children, because that's going to come up in a second. They need to see that process. They need to see what it is. We are visual people. All right. Even the first day you shall put leaven out of your house. The idea of shall put, people are like, oh, what does remove or put leaven out of my house mean? Literally, the word here is not the word for like to take or to just remove away, but it's the word Shabbat is the root word of the word here. And it literally means to cease. It stops, it rests. So that's it. No more rising bread. And no more eating of the leaven. That's the word here for shall put away. It means to cease. So if you understand what it means on the Shabbat to do something, then you do it. So also put leaven away out of your houses and not eat leavened bread. That means just because you take it out of your house doesn't mean you can go out and have a sandwich on your lunch break. It's not supposed to be in your house, and it's not supposed to be in your house. It's not supposed to be in your body. We'll look at that in a verse in a little bit when we get there. All right. So for whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be karut, cut off from Israel. Okay. It's cut off. All right. So we're at verse 16. And in the first day, there shall be a holy convocation. First day, holy convocation. All right. It's Mikra Kodesh. That is what it is, to gather together and convocate. Now we know that's what Yah says. So we do. So no manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. So on the first day and the last day, it is a holy convocation. It sounds just like a Shabbat, but the text says that no servile work, right? No work can be done. And the word here is, where is it? Melakah. That's the word. It's right over here. All right. And it's the word for work. Okay. No work shall be done. I think it's also important to note that this is in the feminine. It's common, but it's in the feminine, which means that also means women, right? So we constantly serve. Yah's like sat down, not sit down, sat down and rest, save that which everyone should eat. Like, don't busybody yourself. Be able to take in the feast. Be able to take in what Yah has done. Be able to literally rest like not in the Western mental construct, right? In the religious construct, but rest in the finished work of Yahushua, right? Like do that, feel that in those days, like reflect on that. Don't busy yourself trying to create this perfect event that you forget what this is all about, males and females, but I'm making sure that I speak to my sisters here because I know what we do. We want to please, we want to make this memorable for everybody. And then we don't get to really engage and really worship during this time. This is what it is. It's a holy convocation. It's set apart. Okay. And verse 17, and you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. All right. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. For in the self same day, I have brought your armies, your hosts, your tribes, your people out of the land of Mitzrayim. Therefore, you shall observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. This is important. This is important. In the first month, he's going to repeat it again, right? In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even. Okay, that's even erev, right? At even. So that is the mixture. So when the sun's going down and you see the mixture of like, ooh, that it looks the same way it looks at sunrise, it's just on the opposite end. That's erev. That's erev. At that time, right? At that time, ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. If you don't know what that means, 1 and 20th, that's 21. So that's exactly 7 days at even. So when that same time of day happens, you don't need to know if it's 6 o'clock. It's the same time. When the sun hits the horizon and it goes down and you see the mixture erev, that's even. And when it happens again on that 21st day, until then, you are eating unleavened bread. You are eating, it doesn't say, and you are not eating leavened bread. It's saying you are eating unleavened bread. All right. Verse 19, 7 days shall there be no leaven, okay, found in your house. So none. Okay. For whosoever eateth that which is leavened. So not just found in your house, right? But then whosoever eateth it as well, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel. He is repeating it again, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. So if you have a stranger, one who is not of Israel in your home, and they eat it, cut off. So you got to work out something with the people in your house. You might have to buy them bread after Passover or something. We got to be diplomatic here. The stranger or the one born in the land, you out. Okay, so don't let anybody get you caught slipping. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about it. We make the arrangements for everything else. This is what it says. Okay, yeah, that's what it says. Get a stranger or the homeborn. You want to be a part, you have to follow the rules. It's not just for us, it's for those who are also cleaving to us. We should be respectful. We're not eating bread this week, okay? And he says, ye shall eat nothing leavened in all your habitations, right? And you shall eat nothing leavened, semicolon, in all your habitations shall ye eat unleavened bread. Okay, so let's make sure we're properly representing what Yah said. Nothing leavened, eat unleavened bread. All right. All right, verse 21. Then Moshe called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, draw out and take you a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover. All right, you're going to kill the Passover. So he gave all this down. He's like, now do. Now I gave you all that. Now this is the doing right here. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basin. The details of this are so important because this is life. This lamb is their life. If they don't get the lamb right, and if they don't get the blood right, and if they don't get this unleavened thing right, and they don't get the leaven out thing right, then it's Yah's not passing over. It's very, very important to get this whole lamb thing right, to get this This sacrifice, we got to get it right. We have to get it right. All right. So it says, take it, put it on the doorpost with the blood that is in the basin, and none of you shall go out at the door of his house until morning. Now, if you're trying to really do this feast in the spirit that is done, you're not supposed to leave out of the house until the morning. Why? It's going to tell you why, especially when you do the memorial, because your children are going to ask. When you say, okay, once we're in, we're in. Why? Right? Because, but why? And then you're going to explain, okay? And so, yeah, as a father to us, but why? Why do we have to stay in? Why does it have to be done like this? Okay. So in this case, obviously, this is literally happening. Like this is life. And in our memorial, keeping our memorials as close as we possibly can to what our ancestors experienced allows for a proper representation and retelling of our story to our children, and it imprints on their minds. It's for them. All right. So verse 23, we're going to stay in the house till morning. Why? For Yahuwah will pass through to smite the Egyptians. We saw Yahuwah. Well, we will see Yahuwah pass before Moshe, and he tells him, he almost gives him why. Why did they die? Because you can't deal with me without the blood. Without the blood, you're dead. Without a covering, without your face being hidden from mine, I'm too just, I'm too righteous. My justice and my judgment is passing through, and nothing can stand it. And so Yah has given us the blood, right? He's given us the blood of Yehoshua so that we can be passed over without the sacrifice. So without the blood sacrifice, without the sacrifice of the lamb, it's done. Those who don't believe in an atonement, those who don't believe in a Messiah, those who believe that all you have to do is just keep the commandments, why couldn't they just keep the commandments and then just have Yah pass over them? Why did it necessitate a blood atonement and a covering for them? Yah has set it up. You can reject it if you want, but he has set up an atonement, and he has it set up for you because you can't stand face to face with him. You're not that tough. Can't do it. Okay. So he says, for Yah will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the two side posts, Yahuwah will pass over the door, pass over the opening, and will not suffer the destroyer to come into your houses to smite you. Now, if this was just some kind of like airborne plague, right? They didn't have double pane, dual pane windows like you have. They didn't have, doors like you have. This is a passing over, and an intentional passing over. If it was just like, on Prince of Egypt, the little spirit comes in, it's like, and all the people. No. There was some smiting and killing happening. And when he saw the blood, he's like, not that house, and kept going. This was not some mystical moment. This was judgment, and blood was shed. People died. Okay. And he says he will pass over the door and will not suffer. He will not allow the destroyer to come into your houses just to smite you. This is not some just, and then their breath just left us or left them. It's a destroyer coming into houses to smite you. That is not a very pleasant picture. It's not a pleasant picture. And ye shall observe, verse 24, this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons, to your children, forever. And it shall come to pass when you come to the land which Yahuwah will give you, according as he hath promised, that ye shall keep this service. And it shall come to pass when your children say unto you, what mean ye by this service? Then you shall say, it is the sacrifice of Yahuwah's Passover. This is verse 27. He said, this is the sacrifice of Yahuwah's Passover. And it says, it's the sacrifice of Yahuwah's who passed over the house of the children of Israel in Egypt when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And it says, he is the sacrifice. He is the Pesach. I think it's interesting that Hebrew has these it's not gender neutral. So even when you say it is, right, it is Yahuwah, it is Yahuwah's Pesach, or Pesach to Yahuwah. It is the Passover to Yahuwah. He is the Passover to Yahuwah. So literally that who is he in Hebrew? He is she. It, we don't have an it. It's either it's going to be gender based. And so the Pesach is called he. He is Yahuwah's Passover. Now we got to figure out who he is. That's important. If he is, he's not an it. It is. It's not it a lamb. It's no. He is Yahuwah's Passover. All right. We got to get that. We have to get that. It's there. That's something you got to just, during this Passover, if that's something you're struggling with, the he of the Pesach, right? That Pesach, that thing, that lamb, that what we would call in English that it, it's not an it. He is Yahuwah's Pesach. Okay. We'll see who he is in a little bit, but let's keep going. He is a Pesach to Yahuwah. All right. And he says, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. So he did something to them and didn't do it to us. That is the actual definition of Pesach. Okay. And the people bowed the head and worshiped. So all this is said. They're giving detail. He repeats over and over again when you're supposed to do it, how you're supposed to do it, what's supposed to be done. Hazeh, this over here. See this? You look at this. You see that? Okay, you're going to do that. All right. Y'all got that? Let me repeat it again. Okay, walk through it. You know how we are. Now tell me back what I said to you. Okay, so you got it. You're going to take the basin. You take mark the lintel. This is a lintel, right? It's mezuzah, right? That's what that is. And he goes through. The Hebrew language is precise. It is a language of command. It's not a language of, well, I heard you said, but if I feel like it, no. You've been commanded to do something. This is what you're going to do. This is the ordinance. This is how it's done. You got it? And the people bowed the head and worshiped. They bowed down. It was like, oh my word. This is really getting ready to happen. It wasn't like, all right, break. They were like, whew, this is heavy. This is so heavy. It brought them into worship. It's happening. We're here. We're at this moment. Yah is literally, we've taskmasters. My children have been devoured by this system. We've been slain in the streets. And literally the moment has come and the words have been spoken. And this is literally it. This is that moment. It's getting ready to happen. It had to be overwhelming. Had to be absolutely overwhelming. They bowed their heads and just worshiped. Like, I can't believe this. Now he's like, all right. Come on now. We got something to do. Okay. They worshiped. And he says, and the children of Israel went away, verse 28, and did as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe and Aaron. So did they. They were like, this is my redemption. Bet. Right? Like they immediately was like, all right, you got this. He's like, hey, Yehuda, you remember, right? Right? Okay, got it. This is what was happening. They were on one accord. They did it echad. It's very, very important. One person didn't go and say, okay, so you see, I'm gonna take out this, but I'm gonna leave this. And another person say, okay, well, I don't like lamb. I like beef, so I'm gonna go get a cattle and I'm putting his blood over the door. Oh, actually, is that where it really mean lamb? Is it lamb? You think it's lamb? Because actually, I heard about mutton, and it wasn't that. When Yah gave the command, it was precise. And that's why knowing our language and looking at our language is so, so important. There were no arguments. They were like, so what do you mean by this month? This is the tree the month? Is the barley the month? No, that wasn't happening. And the same exact words that were spoken to our ancestors are written here in the Hebrew language. This English muddles it. But that Hebrew, that command, that preciseness where it's like, I'm talking to you, the Pesach, Yah is the past. This stuff is very, 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 very precise. The lack of precision is our dull swords and our inability to be to show ourselves as workmen, rightly dividing the word, not rightly dividing English sentences with commas and periods. No, rightly dividing our Hebrew context and our Hebrew grammar so that we can understand what is being said. We got to hash it out at that level, because that's how they understood it, and that's how they moved as one, and that's how they were not confused. They weren't around here doing 17 different Passovers. They didn't know when the new moon was and when the new year was, and was it the Wednesday after the Thursday of the second Saturday? Like, it wasn't that confusing. It wasn't that confusing. Verse 29, and it came to pass that at midnight, okay? So what is a night? All right, this even night, right? A night portion is happening. In the middle of that portion where it's dark, where the moon rules, Yahuwah smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. Man. Whew, okay. Firstborn of the cat. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt. So something happened. It wasn't like they oh no, like they're out and destruction is happening. And Pharaoh rose up, he and all his servants, all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. You didn't listen to Egypt? You're dead. And he called for Moshe and Aaron by night. He said, somebody go get me Aaron and Moshe. And he said, rise up and get you forth from among my people. Both ye and the children of Israel, go serve Yahuwah as he has said. It's so interesting when Yah executes his judgment, all the enemy can do is agree. He is not happy about it. He says, serve Yah as he has said. Go serve Yahuwah as ye have said. I'm sorry. Also take your flocks, your herds as ye have said, and be gone. And he says, and then bless me also. He's like, get out. You know what? This is it's not a game. This is not a false alarm. Y'all gotta go. And Yah has an interesting way when he brings about our captivity that they're like, this is all happened because of y'all. And when they realize it, when it comes up in this day, they're gonna be like, oh, get their stuff, give them whatever they want, get them out of here. Get them out of here. All right. So goes on and he says, bless me also, verse 33. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people. It says that they were pressing them. They're like Chazak, they were strong up against them, like, go, that they might send them out of the land in haste. They were afraid. This is the fear all the way from the beginning. It's just now manifesting. Reason why they wanted to kill them all is because they were afraid of them. Same reason why they want them out. I'm afraid of what you're attached to. We can't oppress you anymore. And now trying to oppress you has killed up our own. You got to go. And he says, and that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we be all dead men. And and the people took their dough before it was leavened, right? Before it had time to sit, and their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moshe. And they borrowed of the Egyptian jewels of silver. They pillaged them. They like, here, they would like, you take whatever you want, just go. And jewels of gold and raiment. They came out wealthy. And Yahuwah gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them. They gave it unto them such things as they require. Like, take whatever you need to worship whoever did this. And they spoiled the Egyptians. They spoiled them. That means they literally took their wealth. It's interesting that they left and they took their dough with them. We're going to see that they didn't take much, but they took their dough with them. And I wrote down a note here because they took out what they had, their dough, before it was leavened, and they're kneading troughs. And often this idea of bread and leavening, right, it becomes this thing, and we miss the focal point of who we should be focusing on during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Why do we have a picture of unleavened bread? What is this picture of leaven, right? Which is now, it begins to build. We get a concrete definition. We see it functioning. And then this definition begins to build. It doesn't weaken the original definition, but then it points us to things. I thought it was interesting because after this, if you haven't read all of Exodus, then you're in for a treat over this Passover week. I challenge you to read it. Yeah, is like, once that bread is done, I got the bread. I don't need your bread. Your dough, leaven or unleavened, I have bread for you. I have bread for you. He says, I have my own bread, and you are going to eat the bread I choose. You are going to eat my living bread, right? He's like, I'm going to take you out to the wilderness. You're going to feast on my word. I'm going to give you my instructions. I'm going to make you a set apart nation. I'm going to change your diet. You don't have a captive's diet anymore. I'm going to change your diet, and I'm going to feed you literally manna from Shamayim. Living bread without leaven, without sin, and it's going to transform you. By this bread, you will be transformed. This is the bread from heaven, and this is his word, which was made flesh. Let's look at, briefly, I got two verses, and then we'll keep going. Let's look at 1 Corinthians. We'll look at 1 Corinthians, and look at 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7. And you guys have probably heard this one before. If you haven't, then there's nothing new in the New Testament. 1 Corinthians. Why can I not spell today? Come on. There we are. Nope. There we are. Nope. All right, 5:7. All right, and it says, purge out, therefore, the old leaven. Why is a feast talked about in the New Testament? Why? Because Yah said forever. And everybody understood what forever meant. So if you didn't see Passover in the New Testament, and if it turned into Easter, if it turned into some other feast, then we're not doing what Yah said. Here, Shaul, who everybody says is like anti-Torah, is talking about Passover. He says, if you go back up, let's go back up to the verse 1. It is reported commonly that there is fornication among you, and such fornication as is not so much as named among the Gentiles, that one should have his father's wife. So he's like, rebuking somebody. And you are puffed up, right? Puffed up, and have not rather mourned that he that hath done this deed might be taken away from among you, right? For I verily, as absent in body but present in spirit, have judged already, as though I were present, concerning him that hath done this deed. In the name of in the name of our Master Yahushua HaMashiach, when ye are gathered together, and my spirit with the power of our Master Yahushua HaMashiach, to deliver such a one unto Hasatan for the destruction of the flesh, that the spirit might be saved in the day of our Master Yahushua. Your glory is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven? So he's using an example that everybody understands. Can't be just pulling some out there like, huh? Leaven in a lump? What's that supposed to mean? This is a strange letter. It's not what, that's not their mindset, right? Know ye not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump? Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Hamashiach, our Passover, connection, who's the Passover? He. The he in the Passover is Hamashiach. Passover is sacrificed for us. Therefore, let us keep the feast, not with old leaven. Get all the old stuff out. Old out of your heart, old out of your house, old out of your mind, old out of your spirit. All of it out. All of it out. Stop trying to hang on to it. Stop trying to figure out, you're going to keep that. No, get it out. Neither with the leaven of malice or wickedness. Got to get that out too. Can't be holding on to old stuff. We got to come into this thing new. So work, it's a practice, but we have to do it, and we have to be diligent and intentional about it. Nothing, can't be holding onto things. He says, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. All right. Let's look at another passage concerning this bread. Let's look at John chapter 6. John chapter 6, and we're heading down to verse 35. It's interesting because this whole chapter is about bread. It's a demonstration. It's a demonstration that Yahuwah is Yah in the flesh. He's doing the doing of feeding them literally bread, like manna from heaven. Because what you gonna do with a couple of fish and some? He says 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. 5 barley loaves. Interesting, because barley is the crop of this season, right? So five barley loaves and 2 small fish. And he's literally just bread, just passing it out. How's that possible? Because he's showing what Yah did. Yah fed 600,000 strong men, Gever, plus little ones, it says in the text, and little ones got mamas, right? So you're talking roughly 600, you like 1.8 million. That's low counted. That's as if everybody had one child and one wife. No, that's not true either. So you're talking about that many people being fed. And so when this is happening, it's another demonstration of what Yah has done. Look, you see this? These people being fed this bread. You guys remember the story, right? Fed your ancestors in the wilderness, bread, and then more left over. It should have triggered something. So this whole chapter, we're looking at bread over and over again. And they gathered up the fragments that remain. So when we get down to verse 35, let's get down here. Where are we? Verse 35. All right, there we are. It says, and Yehoshua said unto them, I am the bread of life. He's like, you saw this feeding. You want to know the definition for it? Yeah, that's me. I'm the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. But I said unto you that ye also have seen me and believe not. Got to work on your unbelief. He is all of it. The volume of the book, we talked about this before, speaks of him. You remove him from the picture, you take him out, nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. And then you find yourself trying to atone for your own sins, and you'll find yourself without the destroyer passing over. All right, let's get back to our text. We're going back to Exodus chapter 12, verse 33. Okay. Actually, we're on 35. And the children of Israel, a little bit further. All right, 37. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men, beside, it's not counting, children. And a mixed multitude, Erev Rav, all right, went up also with them. So can't be them. They can't be the mixed multitude. I've heard this taught a bunch of different ways, and I've had the conversations. A mixed multitude went up also with them. First, we have to say, who is the them? Because the them is separate from the mixed multitude. The mixed multitude went with them. Them's is us's. The mixed multitude is the mixed multitude. They went up together, all right? And flocks and herds, even much cattle. And they baked unleavened cakes out of the dough, which they brought forth out of Egypt. For it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not tarry, neither had they prepared for themselves victuals. All right. This is important. All right. So we're talking about this bread, and we learned before that Yah gave the commandment about how to keep the feast of unleavened bread, how to keep the Passover before any of this happened. Okay. The parameters were set, and they were not set based upon them simply not having time. Because he already told them, even after you have time for bread to rise, I don't want the bread to rise. I don't want seor. I don't want hametz, eat matzot. Okay. So even after this, I don't want you eating this when you do this memorial, because after they were out, right? They're out in the wilderness. They ain't got nothing but time. They let the bread rise. If it was just about this, there was more to it. It was supposed to be something that they remembered. It was a visual representation of them being brought out, right? So he gave the commandment about how to keep the Passover and how to keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Once they were out of Egypt, like I said, they could have let their dough rise, right? But they were keeping strictly to what Yah had said. They'd say, oh, we free now. We can just, do what we want to do. Okay. It was about the complete process that was to take place as they left out of captivity. They didn't do it in part. They stuck to it all the way through. They had all the time in the world over the next few days once they got, where they were going. And they didn't violate Yah's law. It's about haste, but it's also about obedience. It's about obedience, whether they had time or not time, like we have time now, right? We're not going to leaven our bread. We're not going to allow our bread to ferment, and we're not going to keep yeast in our houses. You can say, oh, that was for them now, and this is for us now. We're not going to do that. We're going to do as our ancestors did, because their obedience got them out of captivity. Our obedience is weighing on us getting out of captivity. We have to hear what Yah says and do what he says. Okay. This portion of the text is showing that they did not violate any part of the law, even when they were hastened to leave. They were like, oh, I don't know if I'm having enough food. Let me take this loaf with me. No, they didn't know. I mean, it was, they trusted Yah. They trusted that Yah was going to provide. They didn't say, I got like 7 loaves I made yesterday, and we about to be out in the middle of nowhere. Surely Yah wants some of these loaves for a sacrifice. They're like, leave it. He said to leave it. We're going to leave it, and we're going to trust that he's going to provide. I know some people struggle with getting rid of food, and the breads are like, well, this costs this much money and this costs this. And we have to think about what Yah is asking us to do. When we leave out, we don't know what that's going to look like. We don't know if we're going to have to be in the wilderness like our ancestors, living in temporary dwellings until everything is taken care of. We have to trust Yah in all things. Paul says, trust him when you have a lot and when you have a little, and know that he's in control the whole time. If he asks you to do something, do it, because he's in control of everything. Yah won't give you bread. I was driving today, and the grasses are starting to put on their flowers. Of course, we're in our springtime. And so we saw California poppies, and the grass is like purple. It looks like something from like Narnia or something outside. And the verse hit me. And he's like, I clothe the grass, and y'all over here worrying about bread. You're worrying about bread. And I'm just saying, be obedient, because I want to take you to your own land where you don't have to rent spaces, where you don't get slain in the street, where you can worship me in spirit and in truth, where you can hear my voice and hear me clearly without this phone ringing and this thing buzzing and this person saying you got to clock in here and here. And all I'm asking you to do is take some leaven out of your house and do my ordinance like I said to do it. And I got a whole land waiting for you. I got a whole plan laid out. Like, my plan's not even secret. It's in your book. You can read and see how it's going to play out, only if you just show up to your appointed time and do it right and get on one page. But y'all don't want it. You don't want it. No, you don't want it. You want to argue. You want to be like, oh, okay, but I really love beer. Like, it's not that serious. For 1 week, y'all's asking for 1 week for you to deny yourself food. Let's not let a man's belly be his God right now. And let's let Yah be Yah. And let's walk circumspect to him so that he can do what we can't do. We're powerless against our enemies. And he literally is the destroyer coming through, handling things. And he's like, you know how I was that to them? I can be that to you. But you got to listen to me, because if you don't listen to me, I'm going to have to kill you too. And I love you too much. So I guess I'll just leave you where you are. So, yeah. All right. So they baked the unleavened cakes of dough, which they brought forth out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not tarry. So they couldn't tarry, but they also, they're like, we're going to bake it now and get it done, because we know what's going to happen to this bread, right? If we hold on to it, guess what's going to do? Leaven. It's going to do it. It's going to do it anyways. Okay. And they did not have time to prepare victuals for themselves. They didn't have time to delay. They didn't have time to pack up. It was like literally Pesach. I'm withholding my judgment. I'm withholding it so you can pass through. And a perfect picture of that, and we won't get to that today, but the actual perfect picture is when they pass through when the waters part for the Red Sea and they pass through. And literally, Yah is restraining, as the east wind blow, he restrains the waters. And then once that Pesach, once he passes over, and once this judgment is held for them, holding the waters back, then it literally destroys the Egyptians. You see a literal picture of that. That is what's happening. So we have to be in tune to what Yah has going on. We have to be in tune to his seasons. We have to be in tune to what he said and what time it is. All right. They didn't have any victuals. They didn't have anything to prepare because Yah wants us to be dependent on him. He wants us to hear his voice clearly. He wants us to know what he is saying so that we can walk alongside him. You don't need anything when you with Yah. Like, come on, like you are with, he's like, why you bring that bread? That old bread. You over here got this old bread with you. No, I don't need you to bring that. I got fresh bread every day. I got manna that comes down every day. I have sweet water I can pull out of rocks. You don't have to worry about anything. Just obey me and I can do anything but fail. That's all I'm asking you to do. I don't need you to prepare. I know sisters, we like this, right? Like when a guy's like, hey babe, we're going on a date. Don't bring nothing. We just, I don't need you to pack a bag. I just need you to show up. Be like, where are we going? Right? Like that's, Yah is that times a million. He's like, I don't need you to bring your bags. I don't need you to bring nothing. I just need you to show up. When I call, just come. I'll take care of everything else. I just need you to be obedient to me. All right, verse 40. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of 430 years, even the selfsame day, it came to pass that all the hosts of Yahuwah went out from the land of Mitzrayim. It is a night to be much observed unto Yahuwah for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night. There it is, that demonstrative, right? This is that night of Yahuwah to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations, over and over and over and over and over again. And Yahuwah said unto Moshe and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. He's like, here it is. There shall no stranger eat thereof. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. I know we've been watching other nations and other people do things. And I know the Jewish people, when they do their practices, they're like, oh, let's sit down and let's invite people to Passover Seder. And no. Stranger, you can't eat this meal. We can kick it after Passover. But for this meal, this is very, 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 what did he say? Yeah, I said it. He says, here it is. It is a night to be much observed unto Yahuwah. So if you like side-eyeing Yah's ordinance, if you don't really, I want the food, but I don't really want the relationship. This is not the night to show up to my house. This is not the night for us to hang out. This is not that. We can hang out any other day, but today I'm in worship. And when I'm in worship, we worship on one accord in echad. If you're not with this, if you don't understand this, if you got questions, if you don't believe then today, no, it's a no for me. And we have to be that way. We've been trained wrong where we allow doubt into our redemption. We want to link up and allow everybody in. But if you don't understand our redemption, if you don't understand our plight, if you don't understand our captivity, and if you don't understand how serious this is, that we have to be on one accord with Yahuwah, then we're not doing this. It's not a show for the Hebrew to show the Christian, or for the Hebrew to show the other nations, or for the Hebrew to show their friends how cool it is to be a Hebrew. This is not that night. This is not it. So that's not what we're doing. There shall no stranger eat thereof. You can't eat this. You can't partake in this. If you want to partake in this, if you want to partake in redemption, you got to come all the way in. So you have to be circumcised. And you can't just, if you buy a servant, he's like, I don't want to, then you can't be my servant either. Everybody in my house, everybody in my place, this is what we're doing. Then they can eat thereof. Verse 45, a foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. So you got somebody hanging out on vacation and they don't want to walk in Torah. It's a no. It's a no. You can't like, oh, it's cool. I just want to just like, but you don't have any intention of actually following through and keeping Torah. Then no, don't eat this meal. Meet me later. I got food for you. But this one, we don't sit down to together. Yah is separatist in that way. If you're a foreigner, if you're not walking in Torah, if you have no intention, if you go and sit down and take the blood of Yehoshua in vain and not follow his feast and still act confused, I don't really know if I'm supposed to keep Torah. Like, then don't play with it. Just don't. Nobody's asking you to. We want to use it, say, see, wasn't that fun? See, wasn't keeping the law, wasn't that bad, huh? And y'all was like, don't do that. Don't do that with my Passover. I'm not playing with you. Like, I'm not playing with you. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. In one house, keep going, verse 46, shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad of the house. He knew we was Hebrews. He was like, don't be packing plates and taking them from house to house. Like, oh, I would have been there. Show like lamb. Like, y'all's like, no, if you weren't in the house observing the feast, you don't get a takeout plate later. Because in the morning, it shouldn't be none left over. And then anyways, and you're not supposed to leave the house once you're in the house keeping the Passover feast. So don't be packing plates like, oh, my wife, she was thinking she wanted to keep Passover, but I'm just going to take her a plate. No, not this one. That's what Paul was talking about. Y'all come and you're just greedy. You eat up everything. You want to pack plates to go with the Passover meal. This is not that meal. Meet me at Sukkot. But for Passover, we can't do that. We can't. He says, neither shall ye break a bone thereof. Okay. Don't part the flesh and be taking it from house to house. Right. And don't break any bones thereof. So you'd be like, let me just get a leg. Like, no, it's just, no, it's not happening. Okay. We're clear. All right. Verse 47. We're almost done. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. Not like if you're not keeping it, you're not Israel. All of Israel keeps it. Okay. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee and will keep the Passover. So here you go. To Yahuwah, let all his males be circumcised. Yah was like, look, you're not going to play coming into this one. If you going to really want to do this, it's going to be really a move on your heart. He's like, males be circumcised. And then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land. He said, because when you keep this Pesach, the process of this redemption is not just a meal. It's not just a willy-nilly sacrifice. This sacrifice is making us one people. So you can't come in and be like, oh yeah, I'm a Moor though, but I believe we got to keep Passover. But see, I'm Muslim, but no. It's making us one. He's making one nation, and he's making them so seamless. He's like, you can come in. But when you come in, you are not just agreeing to eat a meal. You're agreeing to be as one with these people so that everything I say to them applies to you. This idea that Yah has two separate families and the Gentile can do one thing and the Hebrew and then the Israelite can do something else. That's not in the text. When he made them a nation, when he made us one nation, even with foreigners and with strangers and those that wanted to join in, he didn't say, oh, y'all don't even have to worry about this meal because y'all weren't even in captivity anyway. So just this is about us. Just let us have our moment right now. No, he was like, you are in on this too. You have to be one. You got to have the same feast. You got to have the same feelings. You have to have the same heart as my people. Because, we'll pick you apart if you want to, you separatists. Okay. All right. He says, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. Shall eat thereof. Now we can get into obviously the conversation of circumcision of the heart. Right. That is definitely a thing. Paul deals with that. So within Jeremiah, it's not just a New Testament concept. You have to be renewed. You have to be brought in. You have to have the old man, the old flesh taken away and to be given a new heart, a heart of flesh to walk according to Yah's law. This is not some like, oh, I think I want to do it today, but I don't want to do it tomorrow, but I don't want nobody. It's not that. Yah's like, do you, but you're not doing this and doing you at the same time. All right. Verse 49. One law. It's like, oh no, it's a law for the Jews and a law for the Gentiles. One law. Oh, it's a law for the Christian and a law for the Mennonite. One law. Oh, we don't have to do one law, one law, one law. I mean, one, you only had to be able to count to one, like just one, just not seven, just one law, one complete law shall be to him that is homeborn and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. Pray for Israel, but I'm going to keep Christmas. Like, no, that don't work. Like, pray for Israel. We believe they're the people and we just want them to really just no. It's a no for Yah. He's like, you don't get to have another law. You don't get to say, we are also the children of God. No, you're not. You're not the children of God if you don't do what God says to do. One law shall be to him that is homeborn and unto the stranger. Where is verse 49? One law shall be to the homeborn, right? Where's our word? For the here it is. Velager. Same thing. One for the stranger. Let's click on it. Somebody's like, it doesn't really say stranger. Sojourner. Gior. Geyer. Mentioned a bunch of times. Temporary dweller. Newcomer. No inherited rights means you're not of this bloodline relation. Because if you're bloodline, you got inherited rights, right? Like literally, like you got to get in. You can't choose. You can't say, well, that's what you think. That's not what I think. I don't believe that. It's like, no, one law shall be to him that is homeborn and unto the stranger that sojourns among you. All right. Thus did all the children of Israel as Yahuwah commanded Moshe and Aaron. So did they. And it came to pass the selfsame day that Yahuwah did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their hosts, by their armies. This portion of the text is Yah says he's going to do something and he does it over and over and over and over and over again. And we still sit here in doubt. So what I want to end with something. I said is encouragement. So I gave you the text. We read it through. Hope we had a good time and enjoyed that. But now I want to give you something to hold on to. Because just like he said he was going to do this and he did it, he's also promised us things. Those of us who have been scattered, and he's going to do those too. So we're going to end off looking at how our redemption is going to be as a people. I want you to go in this Passover thinking about the redemption so that when you go in, we can be like our ancestors. When they heard that they were getting free, they bowed down and worshiped. This is not a party. Passover is not a party. Passover is practice. Passover is worship, because we have an appointed time coming. And we have to know what to do and what that looks like. And our children need to be aware of what this is and what that is and what's happening. So let's start with Psalm 126. When Yahuwah turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, Yahuwah hath done great things for them. Yahuwah hath done great things for us, whereof we are glad. Turn again our captivity, O Yahuwah, as the streams in the south. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves, his wave offering with him. That's a Passover one. All right, let's look at Luke 21 and 28. I'm going to kind of jump around. Luke 21, 28. And he says, he goes through, I'm just going to go back a little bit, just a little bit. And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the cities enter thereunto. This happened to our ancestors. That's why we're here and there and there and there into the four corners. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great distress. What happened to those of us that were with child and gave suck during those days? Go back and look at your history. And wrath upon this people, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, not just northern nation, all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon. Gotta have the sun and the moon. Can't just throw the moon away. Signs in the sun and the moon and in the stars. Moedim. This is Genesis 1:14. And upon the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of Shamayim shall be shaken, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up. You got to look and lift up your heads. Get off your phones looking for it. Lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Deuteronomy chapter 30. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, prophetic, whither Yahuwah thy Elohim hath driven thee. You're going to be scattered. They ain't even made it into the land yet. And he's already telling them they're going to be scattered. And shalt return unto Yahuwah thy Elohim, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children. You have to do it for the children. We cannot neglect the children. They have to do it too. Us and them can't be like, oh, I got to get it so they can get it. No, we have to do it. And we have to walk upright in front of them. We have to. With all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then Yahuwah thy Elohim will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither Yahuwah thy Elohim hath scattered thee. He did it. Okay. If any of thine be driven out unto the uttermost parts, or to the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will Yahuwah thy Elohim gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And Yahuwah thy Elohim will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed. They don't possess. He brings us back there. And you shall possess it. And he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. And Yahuwah the Elohim will circumcise your heart and the heart of your seed to love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, that thou mayest live. And Yahuwah your Elohim will put all these curses upon your enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. And thou shalt return and obey the voice of Yahuwah, and do all his commandments which I commanded thee this day. And Yahuwah your Elohim will make thee plenteous in every work of thine hand, in the fruit of thy body, in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy land for good. For Yahuwah will again rejoice over thee for good, as he rejoiced over your fathers. If thou shalt hearken unto the voice of Yahuwah your Elohim, to keep his commandments and his statutes which are written in this book of the law, and if thou turn unto Yahuwah your Elohim with all thine heart and with all thy soul. For this commandment which I command thee this day, it is not hidden from thee, neither is it far off. It is not in heaven, that thou shouldest say, who shall go up for us to heaven and bring it unto us, that we may hear it and do it? Neither is it beyond the sea, that thou shouldest say, who shall go over the sea for us and bring it unto us, that we may hear it and do it? But the word is very nigh unto thee, in thy mouth and in thy heart, that thou mayest do it. See, I have set before thee this day life and good, death and evil. Life and function, death and dysfunction. If that I command thee this day to love Yahuwah your Elohim, to walk in his ways and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that thou mayest live and multiply. And Yahuwah thy Elohim shall bless thee in the land whither thou goest to possess it. But if thy heart turn away, so that thou wilt not hear, but thou shalt be drawn away and worship other elves and serve them, I denounce unto you this day that ye shall surely perish, and that ye shall not prolong your days upon the land whither thou passeth over Jordan to go to possess it. I call Shamayim and the earth, heaven and earth, Ba'aretz, to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death. You're not gonna be like, I didn't know. Okay, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live, that thou mayest love. Like, can you just love him? Love Yahuwah your Elohim, and that thou mayest obey his voice, and that thou mayest cleave unto him, for he is thy life, and the length of days of thy days, that thou mayest dwell in the land which Yahuwah sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Jacob, to give them. All right, Psalm 80. There's no shortage of his promises. All right. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, thou that leadest Joseph like a flock, thou that dwellest between the cherubim, shine forth. Before Ephraim and Benjamin and Manasseh, stir up thy strength and come and save us. Turn us again, O Elohim, and cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. O Yahuwah of hosts, how long wilt thou be angry against the prayer of thy people? Thou feedest them with the bread of tears, and givest them tears to drink in great measure. Thou makest us a strife unto our neighbors, and our enemies laugh among themselves. Turn us again, O Elohim of hosts, and cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. Thou hast brought a vine out of Egypt. Thou hast cast out the heathen and planted it. Thou preparedst room before it, and didst cause it to take deep root, and it filled the land. The hills were covered with the shadow of it, and the boughs thereof were like the goodly cedars. She sent out her boughs unto the sea, and her branches unto the river. Why hast thou then broken down her hedges, so that all they which pass by the way do pluck her? The boar out of the wood doth waste it, and the wild beast of the field devours it. Return, we beseech thee, O Yahuwah of hosts. Look down from Shamayim and behold and visit this vine, and the vineyard which thy right hand hath planted, and the branch that thou madest strong for thyself. It is burned with fire. It is cut down. They perish at the rebuke of thy countenance. Let thy hand be upon the man of thy right hand, upon the Son of Man whom thou madest strong for thyself. So will not we go back from thee. Quicken us, and we will call upon thy name. Turn us again, O Yahuwah of hosts. Cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. Psalm 85. Yahuwah, thou hast been favorable unto thy land. Thou hast brought back the captivity of Jacob. Thou hast forgotten the iniquity of thy people, and thou hast covered all their sin. Selah. Thou hast taken away all thy wrath. Thou hast turned thyself from the fierceness of thine anger. Turn us, O Elohim of our salvation, and cause thine anger toward us to cease. Wilt thou be angry with us forever? Wilt thou draw out thine anger to all generations? Wilt thou not revive us again, that thy people may rejoice in thee? Show us thy mercy, O Yahuwah, and grant us thy salvation. I will hear what Elohim, Yahuwah, will speak, for he will speak peace unto his people and to his saints. But let them not turn again to folly. Surely his salvation is nigh them that fear him, that glory may dwell in our land. Mercy and truth are met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from Shamayim. Yea, Yahuwah shall give that which is good, and our land shall yield her increase. Righteousness shall go before him, and shall set us in the way of his steps. I have four more. Jeremiah chapter 29. And I'll read just this one verse because I actually read this to you guys last week or the week before. So Jeremiah chapter 29 and verse 14. And it says, and I will be found of you, saith Yahuwah, and I will turn away your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places whither I have driven you, saith Yahuwah, and I will bring you again into the place whence I cause you to be carried away captive. Do we believe him? Do we believe him? Jeremiah chapter 30 and 19. Says, and out of them shall proceed thanksgiving and a voice of them that make merry, and I will multiply them, and they shall not be few. I will also glorify them, and they shall not be small. Their children also shall be as aforetime, and their congregation shall be established before me, and I will punish all that oppress them. And their nobles shall be of themselves, and their governors shall proceed from the midst of them. And I will cause him to draw near, and he shall approach unto me. For who is this that engaged his heart to approach unto me, saith Yahuwah? And ye shall be my people, and I will be your Elohim. Behold, the whirlwind of Yahuwah goeth forth with fury, a continuing whirlwind. It shall fall with pain upon the head of the wicked. The fierce anger of Yahuwah shall not return until he have done it, and until he have performed the intents of his heart. In the latter days ye shall consider it. Hosea chapter 6. Come and let us return unto Yahuwah, for he hath torn and he will heal us. He hath smitten and he will bind us up. After 2 days will he revive us. In the third day he will raise us up. And we shall live in his sight. Then shall we know, if we follow on to know Yahuwah. His going forth is prepared as the morning, and he shall come unto us as the rain, as the latter and former rain unto the earth. O Ephraim, what shall I do unto thee? O Judah, what shall I do unto thee? For your goodness is as a morning cloud, and as the early dew it goeth away. Therefore have I hewed them by the prophets. I have slain them by the words of my mouth, and thy judgments are as the light that goeth forth. For I desired mercy and not sacrifice, and the knowledge of Elohim more than burnt offerings. But they, like men, have transgressed the covenant. They have dealt treacherously against me. Gilead is a city of them that work iniquity, and is polluted with blood. And as troops of robbers wait for a man, so the company of priests murder in the way by consent. For they commit lewdness. I have seen a horrible thing in the house of Israel. There is a whoredom of Ephraim. Israel is defied. Also, O Judah, he has set an harvest for thee, when I return the captivity of my people. Go down to 7. When I would have healed Israel, then the iniquity of Ephraim was discovered, and the wickedness of Samaria. For they committed falsehood, and the thief cometh in, and the troop of robbers spoileth without. And they considered not their hearts, that I remembered all their wickedness. Got to get it together. Last one, Zechariah chapter 8, 6 through 8. When I would have, then... Okay, Zechariah 8, 6 through 8. Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, if it be marvelous in the eyes of the remnant of this people in these days, should it also be marvelous in mine eyes, saith Yahuwah of hosts? Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, behold, I will save my people from the east country and from the west country. And I will bring them, and they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem, and they shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim in truth and in righteousness. I hope that this Passover, we reflect and we believe what Yah has said. We believe him for his redemption. We believe him for what he and only he can do for us, that we know his sacrifice, that we know that we are the congregation that he has purchased with his blood. He has done it. Acts 20 and 28. It's also in Exodus. Somebody put in the chat. I appreciate it. He redeemed us by his hand, by his blood, with his Pesach. So this Passover, I want us to just really, really focusing on worship, focusing on him. There are distractions coming a million miles a minute at me, at you, at all of us. And we need to focus in, hear his word, do his word to the best of our ability. Let's not cut corners. Let's do the best that we can do so that we can be seen and we can be heard. When our ancestors cried out, Yah heard heard them. And he sent by his servant Moshe to come and to deliver him. Well, we are not getting a Moshe, but we're getting Yah, who's going to come when he hears. And he's going to come and he's going to gather his people, and he's going to exact vengeance upon our enemies for all the things that have befallen us as a people. But we have to walk circumspect so that we can be inside when the destroyer comes. You have to be in the house. There's not two houses. There's only one house with one law. And we have to work as one. We have to get on the same page, and we have to unify. Hopefully this was profitable. Hopefully when you guys go back and watch it later, something that helps you in your keeping of the Passover. We're going to pray, and then that's it. I hope you guys have a wonderful Shabbat. Most gracious and Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us your word. Thank you for allowing us to walk through the text, to hear the words that are written down, that you spoke to our ancestors as they were being released from their captivity. We have an example. We've seen you show up. We see how you work, and you've promised to do it again. All you're asking is that we turn our hearts to you and that we're obedient. Yeah, remove all the leaven, remove all the old, stale, fermented sourness from our hearts so that we can walk upright alongside our brothers and sisters, so that we can walk circumspect to you, so that we can continue to be proved, so we don't get caught up in our old ways and stuck in our old ways. Yeah, allow us to be fresh and new, a new lump coming into this season. Yeah, pull it all away so that we can see you, so that we can see you clearly, and so that we can all walk together as one. You desire unity from us. You desire us to walk before you and to be your children who love you and who love one another, and that we pass this down to the next generation, the generations after that, so that if our redemption is not seen in our time, yeah, that our children understand and they can walk it out, and we don't have to worry if they will just turn and go back wayward, as so many generations have gone before. Yeah, we ask that you will just hear us, yeah, incline your ear and gently correct us, please. We understand that we don't have it right. We don't have it all right. But yeah, as we learn, as the master teacher, as the gentle gardener, prune us back and show us how to grow in the ways that you want us to grow. Yeah, we don't want to be a wild olive tree. We don't want to be a field of grapes or a vine of grapes that is sour and on edge after all that you've done for us. Yeah, show us you, so that we can continue to walk alongside you and be grateful and have gratitude and know that you have done again what you have said you were going to do and what you've done for our ancestors. You've done so many times before. We just ask that you give us the strength. Give us the strength to resist everything going on and walk circumspect to you. Thank you for your Pesach. Thank you for once again, another year withholding your judgment and allowing us to practice and to get it right. Thank you for your Passover lamb. Thank you for your Yahuwah. Thank you for sending someone to stand in the gap. Thank you for coming and standing in the gap. And thank you for being patient as we wrestle to understand what you have done, something that is so much higher than we are, something that we don't understand, how you allowed your word to become flesh and to be the perfect example for what it meant to walk upright and to walk in your law, statutes, and commandments. Yeah, you've given us an example. We have such a great cloud of witnesses in your prophets and in your word. And we just ask that you allow the words of that you've given them and the words of your law and the words of Tanakh and the words of the Brit Kadashah to literally go deep into our hearts so that we don't continue to sin against you. Hallelujah. Amen. Shabbat shalom. Oh, and Hag Sameach.